My guest today is Daniel Malone. He's a founder and content creator at Malone Financial. So we're going to talk about his work and his YouTube channel. So Daniel, welcome.
Thanks for having me, Richard.
Yeah, tell me first a bit about your background. How did you get into finances? And then I want to ask you about your current work today.
Yeah, it's a bit of a weird one. So when I was leaving school and kind of trying to pick university courses to study, I actually had previously no experience with business or finance, and I was kind of looking for something that was kind of broad, fit into in college. I did a business degree at undergraduate level because, as I said, it was broad. I then specialized in finance and accountancy, ended up doing a master's in accountancy then after college, and then I ended up working for PricewaterhouseCoopers for just under 5 years in the asset and wealth management division. So looking at auditing the financial statements of some of the biggest investment funds in the world, your Vanguards, your BlackRocks, etc. So yeah, I worked there for about 5 years. Yeah, I during COVID, I kind of started a bit of a pandemic project where I started making online financial education content, primarily on YouTube, but later migrated over to TikTok and Instagram and LinkedIn and things like that.
So you said you were able to review financial statements from the world's biggest companies. What insights can you talk about from reviewing those? Any unexpected things you saw?
Yeah, I mean, I suppose the big thing for me really was, again, I was kind of based in the investment funds division. So I'm looking at mutual funds, pension funds, ETFs, things like that. I suppose the big thing for me was really just seeing the complexity under the hood and the various different types of investments that can exist within pensions and mutual funds and things like that. I think when you talk about the investing world in the day-to-day life, people are kind of just like restricted to like stocks and bonds and things like that. But when you actually look at it from a professional lens and you're looking under the hood and auditing financial statements, you start to see a world of complex derivatives and options and forwards and swaps and all this kind of stuff. So it was really interesting to kind of take my previously novice approach to understanding investments and kind of learn more about the deeper side of things.
Well, do the big guys do anything in particular or very sophisticated, or they only do what's appropriate for their size? Or like, how would you characterize what they do versus, a small business in the US, let's say?
Yeah, I suppose they kind of just act in the best interest of their clients. It really depends on the particular fund in question. If you had a Vanguard S&P 500 fund, that's a passively managed fund, so they would be tracking the S&P 500 index, whereas we could be looking at a more actively managed pension fund who have lots of investment managers at the wheel who are making active decisions about their clients' money and where to allocate it and things like that. I suppose how it differs to, a regular brick and mortar business is that obviously you're dealing with investments of people's money as opposed to the sale of goods and services. So definitely a different side of business that people might not be used to, but interesting nonetheless.
So what is your current advisory focus on? Who is your current clients that you help?
Yeah, so what I do as my kind of full-time gig at the moment, as I said, is content creation online. So I wouldn't necessarily have one-to-one clients per se. My clients are technically the entirety of my viewership base. So I've scaled my YouTube channel to nearly 10,000 followers over the last 2 years. And across all social media channels, I have about 25,000 followers. And I get in the region of 10 to 15,000 views per month on my channel. So I would cover topics from pensions to personal investment portfolios to saving, budgeting, mortgages, buying a house, things like that. So a lot of my engagement with individual viewers will be in the comment section of videos where they might have questions about the content that I've covered. I am a fully qualified financial advisor. I just don't have a licensed practice where, I give formal financial advice in return for compensation. I'm kind of going, I suppose, a new way about it in terms of making the content free, but then getting paid in the form of ad revenue and partnerships with specific companies.
Do you have courses that you're making, or is it just your ad revenue and everything's free?
Yeah, it's pretty much driven by ad revenue and the viewership that I get. I suppose my two main revenue streams are advertising, and then also, as I said, I do partnerships with brokerage platforms that are operating here in Ireland and in Europe. So I would do that, and then I would also do corporate speaking for the likes of Google and Meta and things like that, where I would talk to their employees about finance and financial decision making and things like that. So it's definitely a different approach to the kind of financial advisory sphere, but I definitely think over the next few years with Gen Z coming up the ranks, that's going to kind of revolutionize how, I suppose, financial advice is delivered and how people consume financial advice as well.
Well, what do you see changing recently over the past couple of years in terms of finance? I know it's a very broad question, but what are some things that jump out at you?
Yeah, the big thing for me has to be innovation, especially here in Europe. The European investing scene as a whole is much less developed than it is in the US and Canada. There's definitely a cultural shift happening here in Europe as a whole, where people are taking more of an active interest in their investments from a younger age. That's especially true when it comes to pensions and retirement planning as well. So what we're seeing is a lot more fintech startup companies really trying to change the game in terms of how people invest their money. So we're seeing a lot more modernization of investing. Whereas just 10 years ago, if you were to try to invest in the stock market as an Irish investor or anyone living in Europe, it would be quite complex. The US is definitely far more ahead in terms of the innovation that you guys have over there. But we're seeing a lot more startup companies kind of come through the ranks and I suppose democratize investing for Europeans. So innovation has to be the biggest change I've seen over the last few years.